Cool.
Cool. So, wow, this is it. Wow, episode 2.
Yeah.
Taking Graps with. Can you believe we've made it, Aiden?
I know. Like when you said we should do this podcast, I thought, we'll do it. It'll be fun. Maybe not hear anything, just do it here and there. And we've had overwhelmingly positive response.
I know, and I haven't even shown it to my mum yet. I mean, my mum hears it. She's going to tell everybody on Guernsey.
I know, like it's on Spotify.
I know, right? Have you gotten a check from Spotify yet? Because I haven't.
They forgot to add a couple zeros onto the end.
But yeah, I mean, Joe Rogan got 2 billion for his podcast. So,
do you think we could get a Obama on this one?
I should probably hope so.
Or at least the guy that played Obama in that one episode of Raw.
He was pretty good.
Yeah. Like it has been like overwhelmingly positive. Like I've been getting messages all week from people saying how much they enjoyed it, and one person in particular was like, "Please make more."
Oh, their wishes are command. We are going to make more.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to our 100th episode already.
Which would be, think about it, if we do one a week, that's 2 years from now.
Imagine what the world's going to look like 2 years from now.
Do you ever play Killzone?
Yes.
I imagine it'll be like that, where we're all just in full body suits.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll be the Hellgast. Yeah.
So, how's your week been? This has been a crazy, crazy week. To date, we have just entered back into lockdown.
Yeah. So, if I'm completely honest, my life hasn't changed that much in lockdown.
No, mine either.
Yeah, all I've done is played more games than I usually would because I don't know why, but yeah, it's been okay. Yourself?
Same as you. It doesn't really massively affect me all that much. I'm working from home now pretty much every day. I mean, there was a while when I was still commuting in every day on the underground.
Yeah.
When London is locked down, I mean, right at the start of the last lockdown,
it
is dead and it's so creepy. It's like something out of 28 Days Later.
Yeah, my dad works in central London as well, and he has to take the tube because he works in maintenance for office buildings, and he sent me photos. And I was like, oh, that must have been at 6 a.m. And he was like, no, it's not. And it was like 28 days later.
It's eerie. You don't have any background noise from cars. You don't have any background noise from construction.
Someone doesn't shoulder and tackle you every 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's even like the homeless people seem to have self-isolated. I don't know where they went, but
yeah. Even they're being thoughtful, and like some people in Bournemouth, there's a protest going on at the moment as I speak. I went into town to do my shopping, and there was a protest going on, and the protest has gotten bigger.
What are they protesting?
They don't believe that the COVID exists.
Okay.
Yeah, and the numbers are getting bigger. It's weird. But yeah. Did you want to, before we move on to any of the topics or anything, did you want to expand upon anything we talked about in the last episode at all? Like, is there anything you forgot or came to mind?
Not really. I mean, what did we do in our last episode? We covered our journeys to the ring, didn't we?
Yes. I only mentioned it because I was actually, I think it was Wednesday, I realised what it was that made me look up Portsmouth Wrestling.
Go on then, what was it?
It was the BBC documentary Insane Fight Club.
Oh, of course, yes. Yeah, I remember that.
I'm just Googling now when it came out. What year? 2000? No, that couldn't have been 2014.
No, it's not that old. So yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I remember that is what I think got me to go to training when I went the first time in 2014. Then, because I remember seeing that, and you've seen the documentary, have you?
Yeah.
Did it make you feel like this is ECW?
Essentially, yeah. It made me feel like the fans are taking it back. This is all about the fans and the rabid fan base. As you
Yeah,
say, much like ECW.
yeah. So I think I saw that, and then that's what made me Google the second time when I found Rev Pro. That's what made me Google wrestling in Portsmouth, and I came across that, and I was like, oh, maybe this is the way wrestling's going, where it's going to feel more punky again and in underground and like
That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, underground,
not
culty almost.
Yeah, I don't want to say adult because it's not, but it felt more gritty and yeah. I was like, oh, that seems cool. I want to get into that. Yeah. So yeah.
And there you were, set on your path to destiny.
Yeah.
And here we are today. Yeah, so as usual, I don't have any topics because I'm terrible.
I wrote a list of them as we were talking last week.
Beautiful.
So one of them, do you want me to just read them off and you can pick one?
Yeah, go for it.
So the first one that you said was what your parents think about wrestling.
Oh, well, yeah, let's start with that because that kind of ties in with what we were talking about last week of getting into the business. And I don't know about you, but when you tell people you want to be a professional wrestler, they look at you like you're out of your mind slightly. Or just like if you told somebody that, oh, yeah, I wanted to be a professional footballer, nobody would like bat an eyelid. Like,
No.
Okay, cool. Yeah, everybody wants to be a professional footballer. But tell somebody you want to be a guy who pretend fights other guys in spandex trunks, and you'll get a bit of a weird look, and maybe that's understandable.
Yeah, there's a whole myriad of questions that come up. Yeah, you get weird looks, they laugh, and then there's always like a bunch of different questions. Like, I'm seeing a chiropractor every week, and every time I've seen a different chiropractor, they always go, "So, what kind of wrestling is it?"
That's always the question, isn't it? It's always what kind of wrestling, and I'm always like, I don't want to say I'm a professional wrestler because it always makes people think, oh, like a professional boxer or a professional football player. Like you're like doing this as a living, and you're making hundreds of thousands of pounds. Like, nah, not really. So I just kind of say like American style wrestling. I don't know how do you answer that question?
I see. I don't want to say, "Oh, I do the WWE wrestling," because that is not what I feel like we do. I feel like we are very more sport orientated in what we do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it changes depending on who I'm talking to and that. So, but it's hard because sometimes I'll explain it and then they'll go, "You're an amateur wrestler," and I'll go, "No, because that's like amateur wrestling is Olympic wrestling."
Yeah.
But we're like amateur professional wrestlers, like and it's like it's pro wrestler. It's hard to explain what we do because
half the time people end up thinking you're a boxer or a mixed martial artist anyway. Like no matter how much you describe it.
Yeah, like if you say independent wrestler, I feel like that's probably the best word to describe it. But even then, like once you say that, you then have to explain what that means.
What an independent is.
And then you get all the questions like, "Oh, so do you go to the school and rehearse everything?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, please stop talking. You're getting wrestling wrong.
Yes. It's fascinating to like, I hate to use the word normies or normal people. Maybe sane people would be better.
Sane people, yeah.
Yeah. They're fascinated by like how much of it is staged and do you know who's going to win? When do you find out who's going to win? Do you decide like in the ring like who's going to win? And do you plan it all out? No. Yeah, you do get just like so many questions.
It's either you get question after question, or you just get the one question, then that's nice. I want to move this along, and then it's either all the questions in the world or none at all. There's no in between.
It's the thing, like also people don't seem to like. I'll tell people like I'm a professional wrestler, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Like you say, just and they move on, and then they'll like see some footage of me, and they'll be like, oh, I didn't know you did wrestling. I'm like, what did you think I was talking about when I said I'm going to England to do wrestling? And they just look at me like, oh, I just thought you were having a laugh.
Yeah, like I remember telling people that I liked wrestling and I wanted to try wrestling when I was like, I want to say 16, 17. And the difference in responses from then to now was completely different as well.
Really? Are they more negative now? More?
No, I'd say it's more curious, if anything.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like because we're so far away from the Attitude Era.
Yes.
That people have either forgotten about it and they have no recollection of it in a way. And it's curious. Because we as fans have been entrenched in this for so long.
Yeah, whereas mainstream, it's pretty much fallen out of the mainstream eye, mostly.
Yeah, like if anyone knows anything about it, it's usually the parents of small kids.
Yeah.
That know, the wrestling. And it's when they say the wrestling, they mean the Fed.
Yeah.
And they think that that's only what wrestling is. And then when you show them, no, this is the type of wrestling I do, it's like their whole entire outlook on what it is changes.
Yeah.
And you can see it sometimes from the parents of the junior classes is what they think wrestling is. And then they come to the training school and see, and they're like, oh, this is actual wrestling as opposed to that stuff on TV.
Yeah, I think it gives them, when they see it in person especially, it gives them a bit more, respect for how, athletic it is and how difficult it is.
Yes, yeah. That's very true. I feel like there is a lot more, especially now, respect for what professional wrestlers go through.
Yeah, I think it's also helps, like, the professional wrestling, like, if they are familiar with it, that they know that it's less kayfabe now. I mean, WWE much freely admits that this is entertainment, and it doesn't really try very hard to hold up kayfabe anymore.
Yeah.
And people I feel like they're less hung up on it being fake now. They just think
that's very true.
Cool.
That's very true.
Like they just think it's completely out there, which is kind of awesome. Whereas I feel like 10, 15 years ago, you talk to somebody about wrestling, the first thing that comes to their mouth is, oh, it's fake. Whereas now, if you tell they're like, oh, cool, yeah, oh, that sounds amazing. Like they think you're out of your mind, but they kind of like, as you say, fascinated with it and excited about it. Whereas I always feel like 10, 15 years ago, it's just like, oh, fake UFC, you should watch UFC. That's real. But now that it's just gotten so silly and out of control, it's kind of curled around to being cool again.
Yeah. The question used to be, especially when I was growing up, was, do you know it's fake?
Yeah.
And now it's not so much that, it's people asking, is it? Which I think's cool. Rather than outright saying, oh, it's fake. They can sort of like ask you, and then you sort of help explain it to them, and then they get better understanding. And then I think that helps them understand it is the word I will use.
Yeah. Going back to our original question, when did you come out to your family that you wanted to be a wrestler? Because for me, that's always how it felt. It felt like a hidden shame that I wanted to be a wrestler, and to let my parents know that, oh my God, I have to come out and tell them I want to be a professional wrestler. And that's going to be a hard conversation to have.
Yeah, it was. I never told my parents I wanted to do it. I didn't tell them I was going to do it when I went to training.
Wow, really? Okay, so why was that? Were you just like afraid that they would be worried about you, or?
Yeah, because I didn't want to tell them about it until I'd been myself and had all the information. And also because, you say someone, I'm going to go try being a professional wrestler. And at the time I was just over 8 stone.
Oh yeah, maybe you tell me, like, you couldn't pick anybody up at the school, and
yeah. So I felt like if I told them, then I'd get all these. Well, maybe you should do this first. Maybe you should go to the gym and do this. So yeah, I didn't tell my parents until a couple weeks in. So should we so what did you tell your parents before you went to training?
I pretty much had to, because as I was traveling like on a boat overnight the weekend, I think I'd already, like, I'd mentioned to it, like, them going, oh, I want to be a wrestler, and of course they always rolled their eyes and say yes, yes, yes. And as I got older, I think they became more relieved, because like, oh, he's getting older now, there's no way he'll still want to be a wrestler. And when I told them, yeah, I'm going to spend all this money traveling via boat and plane to the UK so I can pay money to get trained to be a wrestler, you can imagine the reaction wasn't negative, because my parents are still like really supporting, and they always have been. But they were like, well, if it's what you really want to do, are you sure it's what you really want to do? Yeah, okay. So they were very begrudging, but again, they also kind of felt like, okay, just let him get out of the system. He'll do it for 2 weeks, he'll give up, and he'll take up a more sensible hobby, like, I don't know, squash or golf.
Does Guernsey have a big squash and golf scene?
I think it's got an all right golf scene. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't even know if there's any squash facilities on the island. Probably not.
But that was cool of your parents to support it.
Yeah, even though whose parents would be like 100%? I don't think there's probably any parent who's going to be 100% behind their kid.
No, God no.
Professional wrestling, where it's very good chance of getting injured, not a great chance of making any significant money, or living the normal life. The life where you aren't flinging yourself around the ring and potentially seriously injuring yourself for, as I say, not a lot of money. It's your parents care about you. They care about your well-being and your health and your future. And wrestling doesn't contribute greatly to any of those. So my parents were begrudgingly supportive. Of course, when I had my first go round and I quit wrestling school the first time, I think they were probably a little bit relieved.
Yeah.
On the second time round, when I started flying over to the Portsmouth School of Wrestling on a weekly basis, that time I didn't tell them I was training again.
Okay.
This in part was to make sure they weren't worried about me. Also in part, like, I didn't want to tell them until I'd had my first match.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to I wanted to achieve something and say, I've done it, before I told them. And also I just kind of wanted to see the reaction on their faces. So yeah, I didn't tell them until I had my first match. And after my first match, literally a couple of hours afterwards, I sent my dad a picture saying, hi, I just made my wrestling debut. I'm now Guernsey's first professional wrestler. So try to be proud.
Nice. What kind of reaction did you get?
Again, it was begrudging. It was positive. It was begrudgingly positive, but they were like, that's what you want to do. I'm proud that you put the work and the time in. You deserve every success. Please, dear God, be careful. So yeah, I think though, as time's gone on, they've gotten more comfortable with it, and they've seen, oh, he's not going to break his neck that easily. So
yeah,
I still think they'd rather I not do it. I think every parent would be like, I'd rather you not do boxing. I'd rather you not do skydiving. Anything that carries any element of risk to your health. I don't think any parent's going to be like 100% behind it.
I think part of it might be with boxing and other sports like that is if you're really good, you won't get hurt.
Yeah.
Whereas with professional wrestling, you are putting yourself in situations where you will get hurt, but it's about minimizing.
It's minimizing the damage.
Yeah,
you're pretty much
like,
guaranteed to get hurt to some degree.
Yeah, you're like openly letting people hit you, and I think that might, to some parents, that might be the worrying aspect.
Yeah.
That, yeah, it's not like, I don't know, if I was really good at Olympic wrestling, no one could hurt me because I take them down quickly. But with professional wrestling, I know I'm telling a story from A to B, and in that story, I'm going to be taking X number of bumps. So I will be hurt.
That's the thing. My mum has never watched any of my matches.
No,
because she said, "Oh, I don't like you getting hurt." I like in my first match, I didn't take any bumps, and I try telling my mum this, like, you can watch this match. I don't get hit at all. I just beat up the other people, and she still won't watch it.
Okay.
I don't know why.
No.
I guess maybe she doesn't like me, maybe seeing me inflict violence upon others. I mean, maybe that's upsetting.
Maybe. Yeah, that could be a part of it.
Like, can you imagine what Brock Lesnar's parents are like? Like, oh, Brock,
go on, son, kill him.
No, they're probably like, oh, please, Brock, stop hurting people. We don't like seeing your aggressive side, Brock.
Come on, Brock, he's already dead.
Yeah. So, when you did tell your parents, what were their reaction?
So, I didn't tell my mum for the first couple weeks. My dad found out after my first training session because, obviously gone from the house for 3 hours. Your parents are going to wonder where you've been.
Yeah.
So I came back all sweaty and all that, and I had to shower. My dad's
you could have lied to them and told them you were doing something less embarrassing, like ballet or theater or...
Yeah, I could have.
Mining.
But, I was like, oh, I had to go at professional wrestling. And my dad was like, oh, where did you do this? I told him, and he was like, oh, how did you find out about this? I was like, here. And he was like, okay, as long as you're sure. Like, he's never going to stop me. My dad, God bless him, would never stop me from doing anything if I want to do it.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, it's being an axe-wielding maniac. But yeah, he was like super supportive. And funny story about that was he was like, okay, I think he wanted to just see what the school was like. So he was like, I'll pick you up from your next lesson. And I was like, okay. So my second training session ever, we were doing running the ropes.
Yep.
So we're doing running the ropes, and the coach was like, okay, we're going to have someone in the middle of the ring, and they're going to throw clotheslines and elbows, and you're going to duck them. And I was like, okay, cool. So doing this, my dad wasn't here at the time. He was picking me up at the end of training. So on my own at this training school with people I've only met once, and I'm running the ropes, and coach was like, and here we go. And Ian Logan was in the ring with me, tall bloke.
Yeah.
He starts throwing clotheslines and elbows, and I'm ducking them, and I feel like a badass. And coach was like, okay, take a clothesline. And I was like, okay. So I put my chest up. He hit me with a clothesline. I took a bump, and coach was like, I told you to take a clothesline. I didn't say to bump. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, I want you to take the clothesline. I want you to stand there and look strong. And I was like, Jesus, I've never looked strong in my life. Here we go. So coach was like, okay, start again. So I start running. Coach goes, here comes the clothesline. I was expecting to take a clothesline. Ian Logan expected me to duck a clothesline.
Oh, no.
So I run. I put my chest up as high as I could, ready to take this amazing clothesline. Ian Logan swings high so I can duck it easily. Clotheslines me straight up in the face. I fractured my nose.
I was about to say, your nose, did it explode?
Blood went everywhere. And I didn't bump. I stood there spinning around, blood gushing out, and I just go, can we do it again? And coach was like, no, wait to the side to see if you could stop the bleeding.
Yeah, he's probably annoyed that you're getting blood all over the canvas.
I didn't think about it. Yeah, it probably was. Yeah. So, so that was towards the end of the session. So I get in the car. My dad picks me up, and there's me with my legit fractured nose. My nose to this day curves to the right because I didn't want to go to the hospital. So I set it myself.
Well, you did the whole put it in between your hands and click.
Yep. And because of that, it's crooked. I have a crooked nose. And so my dad sees me just covered in blood. There's a picture of it on Facebook somewhere, I think. And that was how and then that's how my mum found out, actually, because my dad had to tell my mum. He said, our son's been wrestling and he had a bit of blood. And she was like, who hit you?
Was it that Logan boy?
Yeah. And so that's how both of them found out. And I think my mum's always been a little bit more protective of me. So
mothers tend to be, whereas dads are like, go on, let him be, let him go on, climb the climbing frame or climb the tree. And
yeah, like if you get hurt, you'll learn from it, kind of thing.
And that's exactly how my dad is.
Yeah. So my dad has been throughout my 3+ years of my quote unquote career. My dad has been the most supportive.
Yeah.
He's come to, I think he came to my debut. He even brought some of his mates to my debut.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, they're the ones that never come back because they're like, oh, your son was eliminated in a second. But my dad saw my debut. He saw my last match. And I'll never forget this. When he went to the New Japan show in London, the Royal Quest.
Wow.
Because my brother wanted to go. My dad he enjoys watching it live, especially New Japan, because it's a sport there. And I feel like he likes the sport aspect. Whereas if WWE's ever on, he just always groans.
So he's a bit of a wrestling dad. The ones that Andy always talks about, who sit in the front row and cross their arms and look for the magic, if you will.
Kind of
like Andy's got this great stereotype of wrestling dads who are dragged to shows by their children. Determined, they're going to sit there cross-armed and they're going to do their best to not enjoy the show. But they usually end up 3/4 of the way through, really into it, despite themselves.
No, my dad's always been super supportive of professional wrestling. I feel like he's never talked down on it. And like I say, he came to my debut and he'll go to if my brother wants to go to the New Japan show, my dad will be like, I'll go with you, Oh. And he went, I think it was when he saw Ishii versus Minoru Suzuki. He saw what wrestling could be.
I'm guessing that was a very stiff
Japanese
style match.
Yeah, 40 minutes long. And he was like, that felt like a fight.
I think so many, I don't want to say mature men, but guys who have always dismissed wrestling would really get into it if they saw, as you say, a hard-hitting Japanese style match or a strong style match, if you will.
Yes.
Where their disbelief isn't going to be completely suspended, but they'll see the physicality of it and they'll be much more invested.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was at Royal Quest. I was actually helping at the show. I helped some of the New Japan office and I helped with the merch and I helped with the meet and greet and all that. And so my dad and my brother came to it and the Young Lion match had happened and my dad came and found me. And he brought me a water because he knew how insane it was. And he said to me, and I'll never forget this, he looked me in the eye and he said to me, he says, I know someday you will be in that ring.
No pressure, Aiden. Jesus.
I know. Yeah. So that's stuck with me, and that sort of it felt like it motivated me a bit as well.
Did he mean literally a New Japan ring, or just in front of a large audience? Or
he knows how much I like New Japan, and I feel like he means in a venue like that or at a New Japan show. But yeah, it sort of motivated me. And my mum, she's come to 2 in my matches, I think.
Yeah.
She doesn't like seeing me get hit at all, but my friends, Brendan and Emily specifically, they make so much noise that it made my mum super comfortable at the show.
Yeah.
And and she came up to me afterwards, my mum, and she said to me, "Did you know that all these girls keep talking about your ass?" And apparently, George told me this as well after I think when I wrestled him and Callum in that 8-man, he came up to me and, "My friends have nicknames for your ass."
Oh, is that what almost triggered you doing an ass man gimmick? What are you telling me? Like it seemed like you'd really put some thought into this.
I feel like I might go that way with the tailor-made gimmick.
There you go. I mean, it's not like Billy Gunn's going to be using a gimmick based on his ass anytime soon. So it's wide open. Go for it.
But yeah, those 2 friends, Brendan and Emily, have come to nearly every one of my matches, and they're always super loud, and it's great. So I feel like they helped my brother and my mum get comfortable watching me in wrestling, and not explaining to my mum what's happening, but Brendan knows, he's a big wrestling fan.
Yeah.
So he was there for my mum, and I feel like when my mum saw what they're like in the matches, it helped her get comfortable with understanding that, I'm kind of in control.
Kind of. What's your brother's reaction? Because you said he was a wrestling fan growing up, so to see his little brother, step through the ropes himself, that must be interesting.
So my brother is 1 year and 3 months older than me, and he reminds me every time. And so, surprisingly, he has like no interest of getting into a ring.
Right.
If anything, he said that he would like to be a manager, like a Paulie Dangerously, like in a suit, yelling at people.
Yeah.
My brother, he's super. When we were kids together, he was always into the baby faces.
Yeah.
And when he actually heard I was wrestling, he didn't want to see me at first because he didn't want to see me get hit.
Wow.
And I think it was when I was having my debut match. I was in the Rumble. When my dad got a ticket, I think he kind of made my brother come. And then, like I say, Brendan and Emily, they were there. And when they saw that he could just get lost in the show with them, that helped him get lost. And he comes to as many shows as he can, yeah.
See, I'm really surprised that your brother doesn't like you getting hit, because that completely contrasts with my brother, who does not. He's like, you could probably fight a bit harder. Like he is, of all my family, is one who will actually watch the matches and give me feedback.
Okay. So did you tell him before you went to training, or?
No, he found out at the same time. But he's always, as we grew up, he was a wrestling fan as well.
Okay.
Not quite as into it. He loves the Attitude Era, and it's more like his fandom of wrestling now is nostalgic.
Yes.
I think he watches a massive amount of current wrestling, but by golly, he'll watch like clips from the Attitude Era over and over and over and over again.
Okay.
So
that's
he's a bit
interesting.
of a lapsed fan, but no, his reaction has always been like super positive. If anything, he's like, you should look stronger. You shouldn't sell that. You should don't. He thinks I should just basically be unstoppable monster, and I'm trying to explain it to him. That's not. I don't really get a say in that. That's not really how it works.
Okay, he's like, oh, all your matches should be squashes.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Nice.
And he's like, you should be in the title match. You should be on the main event for every show. I don't really get to decide that, nor am I good enough. So
yeah, I'll book my own show and then I'll do it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And did he go? Because you had people come to one of your matches Was he there with you?
Yes. No family members ever attended one of my matches. But
Okay.
my friends from Guernsey, unbeknown to me, came over, and it wasn't until the show was over and I was helping take down the ring and pack up the chairs, I saw the four of them sat there in the front row with their arms crossed in the classic dad fan pose.
The impress me pose.
Yeah. And I was breaking down the ring. I was like, let's do a double take. Were you there the whole time? And of course, they probably came to my worst match I think I've had so far as well. So,
I was going to ask you what match it was, but I don't want you to drop anyone in it if it was your worst match.
It wasn't a great match, but
was he a sing? Okay.
It was a 3-on-1 match.
Okay.
I think it was only my third match, so it wasn't god awful. But all of my other matches, I think they would have found more entertaining than the one that they came to.
Yeah, I feel like there are certain kinds of matches that people don't like coming to. Like my friends don't like coming to the Survivor Series matches.
Really? What's that? Is that because guys get eliminated super quickly and there's not really...
There's too many people for them to get into it. The matches happen... There's too many eliminations for them to keep track. Because if you think they're casual fans, when we did the first one, they were like, why did everyone go out one by one? And why were there 8 people? And why are you with these people? And there was just so much going on that they didn't like it. And the fact that I think every time we do it, there was always 3 of them.
Yeah. And
I remember when we did the last one, which I was actually the one I was against you in, I was kind of proud of that match. None of my friends were there because they were like, "Ugh, it's a Survivor Series match. We're not going to that."
That was a good match. I very much enjoyed that match. I didn't barely do anything in it, but I enjoyed watching it from the apron. I can remember
that. You eliminated me.
I eliminated everyone.
Oh yeah, you did, didn't you? Yeah. That's probably why you enjoyed it.
Yeah. My second match, and I get to pin 4 guys in about 90 seconds.
My last episode, I said I've never pinned anyone. I would like to correct that because I've pinned one person in the Survivor Series.
Beautiful. Who was it and how?
I'm trying to think of his wrestling name now. Billy.
You mean Joshua James?
Joshua James, yes. I'm terrible with names.
Favor's dead.
Joshua James. I want to say JJ, but we have a JJ. Joshua James in. I feel like I eliminated him from the year's Rumble that year as well.
I think I remember you telling me you did, yeah.
Because he didn't like it. And then we get into the Survivor Series match and I'm told that I'm pinning him and he didn't like it. So I kicked him. He came in for a charge. I kicked him, rolled him up, feet on the ropes.
Beautiful.
My only pinfall ever. And again, my friends were there and they were like, you pinned him. Why didn't that win the match? And I was like, I know.
See, I get this, but I also get, surely the rules aren't that complicated. Like, teams of 4 or 5, and when somebody gets pinned, then the team's down.
Yeah, but you think, like, that same show, we have tag team matches and we have singles matches.
Yeah, I guess it's because the rules change each match, whereas like, if you go to a boxing match, there's no boxing match, it's like, I don't know. In this match, you can only win by
I quit.
I quit, or knocking your opponent over the top rope, or hitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, there's too many people, and like for the casual people who come to our shows, they don't know who everyone is. So like we go into these matches, like if I go in, I like, because I was against you, Buff Daddy, and New Wave.
Yeah.
I know all your gimmicks, I know all your moves and that, but like the casual fan, when that happens, they don't. So I feel like when we plan these matches, we don't go in with the idea of what does the casual fan expect. We go in with, oh, we know what each other does. And I feel like when we structure matches a certain way, it might come off differently to the casual fan.
Yeah.
And
that in turn makes it quite difficult to book a show or a match when you have casual fans. Because it is quite difficult to grab their attention and maintain their attention sometimes. Yeah,
so I feel like if we just stick with singles matches and tag team matches, that helps the casual fans get into it more.
Yeah,
like whereas, like you say, your weakest match is your 3-on-1. Well, a 3-on-1 match is such a strange and uncommon match that it's hard to make it good.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah, next time you're in a singles match, or a tag team match, invite your friends.
Oh, that's if we get fans back anytime soon. I mean, that's another thing. When do you think things will start getting back to normality in the wrestling world? Because I haven't had, I realized this year I've only had, I think, 2 matches or 1 match. It might only have had 1 match. My last match was in March of this year.
Yes.
And that was the very last show that we did. And we were very lucky to even have that show, because that was maybe a couple of weeks before the first lockdown.
It was literally a week before, I believe, because the guy. Oh, was it? It was a week and a bit, yeah, because the guidelines had just come into place, and therefore we only had half a crowd, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, if we'd waited another week, it would have been called off for sure.
Oh, definitely. And the day before, they were considering calling it off, because we were instructed kind of not to touch fans or get close to them, which is hard when. Yeah, because so we'd come out and all the kids were like, "Yeah, high five!" And Dan McGee, bless him, Dan McGee kept bowing. I loved it. As a heel, I should have gone up and spat on all their hands, but that is one of my proudest matches. Actually, was that match, but I kind of wish there was a bigger crowd there.
What was the match?
Me versus Dan McGee in a singles match. And that is, my dad was there for that one, and my brother, and my dad at the end of it, me and Dan McGee called on the fly a little after match spot where he wanted to shake hands. I got in his face, and we have a verbal thing, just to break kayfabe a little. So we're doing that. I get in his face and I start jaw jacking I'm gonna mess you up, kid, this, that, and the other. And really what I was saying to him is, so what do we do from here? And he's like, don't shake my hand and walk away. And I'm there giving him super loud body, mouth motions, but in verbally just going, okay, that sounds good. Yeah, we should do that. And I walk away, I roll out the ring. My dad, after the show, came up to me and he was like, what happened? You look like you were going to punch him in the face. Was that real? And I was like,
you'd blurred the lines.
I worked him. I worked my dad and my brother. So yeah, that was a fun match, and that's on YouTube if anyone wants to watch that.